Look, I'm not proud of this. Actually, that's a lie. I was extremely proud of it for about 45 seconds. Then reality kicked me in the face. Literally. I was 14, which is basically the worst possible age to be a human being. You're too old to cry about stuff, but too young to have any actual wisdom. So you just walk around making catastrophically bad decisions and hoping nobody notices. I was 5'7", which at my school put me solidly in the not tall but not short category. The Switzerland of height. I'd been lifting weights in my garage for maybe 3 months, which in my mind meant I was basically ready for the UFC. This whole thing started on a Tuesday after school. Me and my buddies were hanging out by the basketball courts doing absolutely nothing productive, which was our specialty. We're talking like peak suburban boredom, throwing rocks at a chain-link fence, arguing about whether Travis Scott or Drake was better. The usual. That's when Danny showed up. Danny was this 6th grader who lived in my neighborhood. The kid was maybe 4'9" on a good day. Looked like if you sneezed near him, he'd fly backwards into a wall. He had this mop of brown hair that covered his eyes and wore these oversized hoodies that made him look even smaller, like a turtle that couldn't find its shell. Normally, I wouldn't have even registered his existence. Different grade, different universe. But Danny had apparently decided that Tuesday was the day he was going to test the limits of social hierarchy. "Yo, Jake," he called out. "That's me, Jake. I heard you think you're tough." My friends went silent. Like that movie moment kind of silent where everyone's internal alarm bells start going off. Because here's the thing about middle school social dynamics. Challenges like that don't just happen. They're declarations of war. And if you don't respond, you're basically announcing to everyone that you're soft. I turned around, genuinely confused. "What?" "My cousin goes to your school," Danny continued, walking closer. He had his hands in his hoodie pocket, trying to look intimidating, which on him was like watching a chihuahua try to be a pit bull. "Said you've been talking shit." I hadn't been talking shit. I didn't even know who his cousin was. But my friends were watching, and in that moment, I had exactly 2 options. Look weak or look strong. Guess which one my 14-year-old brain picked? "Dude, I don't even know your cousin," I said, keeping my voice level, trying to sound reasonable, mature. "Whatever you heard, it's not true." Danny took another step forward. We were maybe 6 feet apart now. "Prove it." And there it was. The trap. The social equivalent of a loaded gun on a table, and my hand was already reaching for it. My buddy Marcus muttered, "Jake, don't." But I couldn't hear him anymore. My ears were full of static and testosterone and pure distilled stupidity. "Prove what?" I said. "That I'm not scared of some 6th grader?" Danny smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile that should have been a massive red flag, but I was too busy feeling insulted to notice. "Yeah," he said. "Prove it." Here's what I thought was going to happen. I'd push him, he'd fall down, everyone would laugh, and we'd all go home. Quick dominance display, no actual violence, problem solved. Like those nature documentaries where the bigger animal just puffs up and the smaller one runs away. That is not what happened. The second I agreed to prove it, which by the way I never actually said out loud, but apparently my face said it loud enough, Danny dropped his backpack. The kid moved fast. Like, unsettlingly fast. Before I could even process what was happening, he'd closed the distance between us. "All right," I said, putting my hands up in what I thought was a defensive but non-threatening way. Still trying to maintain some kind of moral high ground here, like I wasn't about to fight a child. "Look, man, I really don't want to—" He shoved me. Not hard, but enough that I had to take a step back. My friends made that collective, "oh" sound. That means things just got serious. There's no coming back from that sound. That sound is a legal document. That sound is binding. I shoved him back, more force this time, because I needed to establish that I was not, in fact, going to let a 6th grader punk me in front of everyone I knew. He stumbled backwards maybe 2 feet, and I felt a brief moment of relief. See? Size matters. Physics matters. Everything's going according to... He came at me again, and this time there was no testing, no posturing. The kid just launched himself at my midsection like a tiny hoodie-wearing missile. We both went down. I'm not talking about a controlled wrestling situation. I'm talking about we hit the concrete hard, my elbow scraped against the ground, and suddenly I'm in a full scramble with someone who weighs maybe 90 pounds. He was all elbows and knees and apparently had no concept of fighting fair, which, in retrospect, makes total sense. When you're that much smaller, fighting fair is just losing slowly. I was trying to grab his arms, pin him down, end this as quickly as possible with minimal damage to both of us. But Danny was moving like he'd been possessed by a caffeinated squirrel. Every time I thought I had a hold on him, he'd slip out. His hoodie was working against me. Too much fabric, nothing to grip properly. Then he got his knee into my ribs. Not super hard, but enough that I made this embarrassing oof sound, and my grip loosened for half a second. That was all he needed. He wriggled free, and before I could get up, he was on his feet, bouncing on his toes like he'd been training for this his whole life. I got up slower. Way slower. There was dirt on my shirt. My elbow was bleeding a little, and I could feel something shifting in the crowd's energy. That initial "Jake's gonna destroy this kid" confidence was evaporating into, "Wait, is Jake actually struggling right now?" "Get up," Danny said. Not taunting, not angry, just matter of fact, like this was already over and I just didn't know it yet. That's when I realized I might actually lose this fight. Pride is a hell of a drug. I got up, brushed the dirt off my jeans, and tried to look like I had any idea what I was doing. Spoiler alert, I did not have any idea what I was doing. Those 3 months of lifting weights in my garage, completely useless when you're fighting someone who moves like water and hits like a brick wrapped in a hoodie. Danny didn't wait for me to get my bearings. He came at me again, and this time I was ready. Sort of. I managed to catch him in a headlock, finally using my height advantage. For about 3 seconds, I thought I'd turned it around. I had him. I was winning. Then he bit me. Not hard enough to break skin, but hard enough that I yelled and let go immediately because what the hell? Who bites people? Apparently 6th graders who are tired of following the unwritten rules of middle school combat? That's who. The second I released him, he spun around and punched me in the stomach. Again, not a devastating blow. The kid's fist was tiny, but it was unexpected, and I was already off balance, and the combination of surprise and physics sent me stumbling backwards. My heel caught on something. Maybe the edge of the court, maybe my own stupidity, and I went down. Again, for the second time in 3 minutes. This time I stayed down longer. Not because I was hurt, though my ego was definitely taking damage, but because I was trying to calculate my next move. The problem was that every calculation led to the same conclusion. I was losing a fight to someone half my size in front of everyone I knew. Danny stood over me, breathing hard, his hoodie somehow still on despite everything. "You done?" he asked. The crowd had grown. More kids from the neighborhood had appeared, drawn by that mysterious middle school telepathy that alerts everyone when something interesting is happening. Someone was definitely recording this on their phone. This was going to be on someone's Instagram story. This was going to follow me forever. I could have gotten up, could have kept going, hoped for a lucky break. But here's what nobody tells you about fighting. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is recognize when you've already lost. "Yeah," I muttered. "I'm done." Danny picked up his backpack, gave me one last look that I still can't quite interpret. Was it pity? Respect? Just general, "Wow, you suck at this?" And walked away. The crowd dispersed slowly, everyone trying to process what they'd just witnessed. My friends helped me up, but nobody said anything. What was there to say? The story spread through school like wildfire. By Wednesday morning, everyone knew. By Thursday, it had evolved into legend. Some versions had Danny beating up 3 kids, some had me crying, I didn't. One particularly creative retelling involved the police showing up. They didn't. None of the versions made me look good. I spent the next 2 weeks avoiding everyone, eating lunch in the library, taking different routes to class. Eventually, the story faded into background noise, replaced by newer, fresher humiliations. But I never forgot it. 9 years later, I can laugh about it. Mostly. I learned some things that day. Don't fight people smaller than you because you have everything to lose and nothing to gain. Size isn't everything. And teenage boys are universally idiots who make terrible decisions when their friends are watching. But also, more importantly, I learned that sometimes the universe has a sense of humor, and sometimes you're the punchline. Danny, wherever you are, you won fair and square. I hope you're doing well. I hope you've grown since then. I hope we never meet again. The moral of the story? There isn't one. Sometimes you just have to live with the fact that you once got your ass kicked by a 6th grader, and that's okay. Character building or whatever. At least I didn't bite anyone.